Since the U.S. Supreme Court first assembled in 1790, it has ruled on tens of thousands of cases. The court's decisions have defined the country's legal framework and shaped countless aspects of U.S. society. Here are some cases that have had a large impact on American life, including the landmark abortion case, Roe v. Wade, and the recent Supreme Court ruling that overturned it. U.S. v. Juan Kim Arc in 1898 established the precedent that anyone born in the United States is a U.S. citizen, regardless of his or her parents' nationalities. In a 6-2 decision, the Supreme Court ruled that Juan Kim Arc, who was born in San Francisco to Chinese parents, was entitled to citizenship because of his birth in the United States. The court ruled the first clause of the 14th Amendment of the Constitution, which states, "All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States." In Brown v. Board of Education, 1954, Supreme Court justices unanimously ruled that racially segregated schools were unconstitutional. The 9-0 ruling overturned a previous High Court ruling, Plessy v. Ferguson in 1896, that allowed separate but equal education. The court now said that separate education facilities are inherently unequal, and ruled that segregated schools violate the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment of the Constitution. The ruling led the federal government to mandate the desegregation of schools and helped to advance the civil rights movement in the country. Engel v. Vitale in 1962 set the precedent that public schools cannot initiate prayers for students. The court ruled 6-1 that the New York State school system was acting unconstitutionally by beginning each day with a school-sponsored prayer that referenced God. Although the prayer was voluntary, the High Court said it was not appropriate for the government to endorse any particular belief system. It said the government's actions violated the First Amendment of the Constitution, which guarantees freedom of religion and prohibits the government from establishing a religion. New York Times v. United States, 1971, often referred to as the Pentagon Papers case, expanded the freedom of the press. The ruling made it possible for the New York Times and the Washington Post to publish the Pentagon Papers, a U.S. government report on U.S. involvement in the Vietnam War. The court ruled 6-3 the newspapers had a First Amendment right to publish the classified papers, and said the government failed to show the publication of the papers would cause harm to the United States. Roe v. Wade in 1973 is the Supreme Court ruling that gave women across the United States the right to have an abortion in the first trimester of a pregnancy. In a 7-2 ruling, the court said women have a right to privacy that enables them to choose the fate of their pregnancy in its early stages. However, the court also allowed states to impose certain restrictions on abortion in later stages of pregnancy to protect the health of the mother and the fetus. The case has been at the center of the U.S. abortion debate since the ruling nearly 50 years ago. In Texas v. Johnson, 1989, the Supreme Court found that even very offensive speech, such as burning the American flag, is protected by the First Amendment of the Constitution. The court ruled 5-4 that Gregory Johnson, who was arrested for burning a U.S. flag outside of Dallas City Hall, was practicing his right to free speech. In District of Columbia v. Heller, 2008, the Supreme Court said U.S. citizens have a right to possess firearms unconnected with service in the military. In a 5-4 ruling, the court cited the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms, in striking down a District of Columbia law that restricted the use of handguns in the city. It rejected an argument that the founders of the Constitution included the term militia in the Second Amendment to limit arms to those in military service, saying during the founders' time, the term referred to all able-bodied men. Oberfeld v. Hodges, 2015, is the Supreme Court case that gave same-sex couples the right to marry nationwide. The court ruled 5-4 that the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment of the Constitution guarantees people the right to marry, while the Equal Protection Clause ensures that right is administered with equal force to same-sex couples. The court held that same-sex marriage bans, then in place in more than a dozen states, were unconstitutional, thus legalizing such marriages in all 50 states. In Dobbs v. Jackson's Women's Health Organization, 2022, the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, established in 1973, eliminating the constitutional right to an abortion and leaving it up to individual states to decide the matter. The court upheld a Mississippi law that banned abortion after 15 weeks of pregnancy, much earlier than the precedent set by Roe v. Wade. A 5-4 majority said no right to an abortion is implicitly protected by any constitutional provision. The court also rejected arguments that Roe v. Wade should be protected because of nearly 50 years of precedent.